Hey guys, this is Troy from Cape Ann Conversations. I've got Tom and Chris with me from Orchestra On The Hill. I'm going to jump right into it, guys. Tell us about the Orchestra On The Hill. Tell us about yourselves, how you got started in this.
Great.
The floor is yours.
Awesome.
Thank you, Troy. First of all, thank you for having us on here and to, give light to what we're doing with the Orchestra on the Hill, and we really appreciate that very much.
I appreciate you guys both coming in
Thank
today.
you.
So I guess we can start with introductions. I'm Tom Palance, and I'm the founder of this group and artistic director, and Chris Florio, assistant director and composer as well. And just a little bit about the orchestra. We started out in, I would say, 2007. We started as a sort of a standard chamber orchestra where we played time-tested classics like Vivaldi and Albinoni, and I played trumpet concertos with the group. And it was a wonderful little volunteer group. And then slowly, as we went through time, I met people like Chris, who's a wonderful composer, who lives in Ipswich, and we started adding original music to our repertoire. And today, we do all original music. And what makes us unique is that we're a collaborative orchestra, so that when we write music, we team up with visual artists, dancers, poets, animators, and we compose pieces together with these artists. And so now every concert that we do is all original music, and I think this is the most unique musical organization probably in New England, maybe in the world. I don't know.
I don't know of another one in the world.
But every concert is all original music, and now we're working with 5 composers, all from Ipswich, with incredible backgrounds, like graduates from New England Conservatory and Berklee School of Music, and it goes on and on and on, all living in this small town of Ipswich.
That's fantastic. Give us a little bit of history on where you typically are performing at. Where would the Cape Ann community find you?
Well, we just came from a meeting literally a half an hour ago where we were meeting with people in Rockport about a concert that we're going to do in collaboration with the Rockport Art Association at Shell and Lou next April. So
fantastic.
But typically we perform in Ipswich. We performed in Hamilton. Our next concert is at the Crane Estate at Castle Hill, and that's in November. So
all over
all over the North Shore right now.
We've also performed at the Dolan Performing Arts Center in Ipswich. Is a great auditorium that seats 600 people. So basically we're staying fairly local for now. But we have plans to move on and go to other places.
I like to hear about those plans.
Sure.
A little bit more.
Sure.
We're collaborating with the widow of a very famous artist named Thorpe Fite, and unfortunately he passed away from dementia. But fortunately, he painted through the entire process of dementia, so you can see the change in his artwork as he's starting to decline mentally. And it's profoundly interesting. So we're going to write music around how the artwork changes and use that as thematic material. And there are galleries all over the United States who are interested in this work, and including New York City and so on. So we're hoping to perhaps travel with the orchestra and showcase this particular performance.
That's incredibly interesting. If we take a step back, Chris, tell us a little bit about how you got started in the orchestra itself, and maybe a little bit of background on your own performance history. Where did music start for you?
Okay, so I've been a musician for most of my life, and certainly all of my adult life. Tom had been doing his work with the orchestra for a few years when my wife and I moved to Ipswich, and we met at a party in 2016.
I'm surprised you remember that.
I remember the party, and I remember the conversation. And I'm a professional musician and composer, but I also teach animation. So as soon as we started talking, it was like, ching. And Tom is just a natural collaborator. That's what he does. So he almost immediately invited me to work with the orchestra. It was one of the first, I think, all-original concerts that he had done. I wrote a piece for it, and I created animation for it with some of my students at the university where I was teaching, and we've been working together ever since.
And Tom, tell us a little bit about your performing history, and what instruments are your favorite?
Well, I'm a trumpet player.
Okay.
That's a professional trumpet player, and also conductor. And I started composing. Actually, I was inspired by Chris's music, so I had him come into the orchestra. I was solely conducting the orchestra, and then I started writing with his encouragement and other composers from Ipswich that we have in the orchestra. So, yeah.
So, you guys are a 501c3.
Correct.
Which, for those listening, that's a not-for-profit here. But everything costs money to operate. How do you typically manage this organization in raising funds and electing people and building the community? How is that, as an operators of a not-for-profit, how is that affecting your orchestra?
Well, very fortunately, we have a good board of directors, because if it was left up to Tom and I to raise the money that we needed to do this,
this wouldn't be happening.
We
wouldn't be raising any money. We're so into writing the music and performing it and getting musicians together. But fortunately, we have this wonderful group of professional folks who are volunteering their time and share our passion in collaborations, that they're really helping us raise money, and we're starting to see that now in the past couple of years.
And is that just through individuals? How could the community that's maybe even listening to this support you guys? Is that primarily by showing up to the events?
For the last maybe 4 years, we've had the luxury of getting the funding for our concerts from individual donors and from corporate sponsorships, which has given us the ability to make the concerts free to the community.
That's phenomenal.
We can't always do that, but because we've had generous sponsorship, we've been doing that for a few years, and it's been wonderful.
And we have a long way to go. As you know, we're constantly seeking support. Folks can go to our website, theorchestraonthehill.org, and there's a donate button, and there's also a lot of information about the group, and perhaps they'll get excited about it and feel that they can contribute in some way, either volunteering to be on our board or contributing funds.
Where are you guys finding the Chris's of the world to come join the orchestra? Is this
it's magic
parties?
It's magic.
I'm sure the artists hang together at some level.
I would say many of the people who are with us now saw me perform in an entirely different kind of group at the Mayflower in Ipswich every Tuesday night. It's where I have a steady jazz band. And I think I've met just about everybody that is helping us through that beautiful musical social event. Also, a very strange thing happened when I first moved to my house. I had someone doing a service job in the house, and he was walking around the premises, and I was up composing a piece of music. I was working on a trio for trumpet, piano, and percussion, and he peeked his head in the door and he said, "I hear jazz influence in your compositions." And I turned around and surprised, like, "What do you know about this? Who are you?"
This is like a framer in your house?
It was someone doing a service job in my house.
Yeah.
And come to find out, he was a graduate from New England Conservatory. His name is G. Paul Nager, and a wonderful composer. And I said, you write music? This is incredible. Come over, let me hear your music. And he came over to the house, and he played me his music, and I was blown away. So he's been with us all these years as well.
Yeah, he was the first composer in residence, right?
He was first composer in residence.
And for any composer to be able to write music for an orchestra that does all original work, but also is extremely good orchestra, is a blessing and so rare that you can't imagine. So we don't have to look for composers, and we're incredibly lucky to have so many good ones right in our area.
That's a good point. I mean, some of these people are coming out of the woodwork. You know, Tom, I'm a composer. I teach at Berkeley.
Right.
I share the office right next door to yours. I'm like, and you live in Ipswich? This is Jerry Gates.
Right.
And I come right with us. So now we have at least 5 of us.
Six now.
6 now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what's the future? I know you mentioned there was the event in November.
Right.
That's at the Crane Estate.
Yep.
Yes, called Harvest in Harmony.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's a little kitschy name to invoke November time period.
Yeah, right.
And that's to feature soloists in the group. So we're all writing for individual soloists, and we're going to include a young talent. We like to do that in our series, is to bring in young up-and-coming talent and feature them in our concerts.
And is that event expected to be a multi-day event? How would people attend this?
That's going to be held at the Crane Estate, and there'll be information on the website as to how to reserve tickets for that. Very limited seating capacity there. The Crane Estate is probably 100
people.
120 people, so that will sell out fast.
Yeah.
We're also doing something coming up in February called Voices of Our Town, and we're collaborating with a really well-established chorus called the Chorus North Shore, and their new conductor, Abby Frost, and we are featuring vocal music in that concert. I'm not sure. Is that going to be at Dolan Performing Arts Center as well?
Haven't settled the venue for that, so watch the website. The orchestraonthehill.org is the website.
Right. And then Chris was talking about Shalon Liu performance. That's called The Sea of Life. So what we're doing is collaborating with the Rockport Art Association and their education program. They have students who are learning to paint, and we're going to give them this task to paint something that inspires them about the sea, that gives us hope in the sea. And we're going to work with these students and show them how we can create sounds around their colors. And we're going to create a performance around that.
Right. So that's interesting because it's kind of a year-long progress. The end result for the orchestra is a single concert. But starting pretty much now, there are going to be meetings between the students and the composers. The students' artwork that they're going to create is going to be influencing the composer's music. What the composers talk to the students about is going to influence the artwork they create. We're all going to be learning about the ocean and the environment together about it. And we really love it when it's not like hire some dancers to create some dance for the performance, but work with the dancers to create the performance, work with the students to create the performance, work with the artists to create the performance.
And getting the kids involved. That's the thing. You have to, get kids involved in the arts early, right?
That's
and
right.
get them excited about it, and let them have fun and make mistakes,
That's right.
and just
right.
enjoy it, and then they'll build out to
Yep.
be,
And
like you.
We've
guys.
seen evidence that it changes lives. We've
my
had
God.
some students.
Oh my God. 2 years ago, we did a program where students at 2 different high schools in the area wrote poetry. The composers picked from the poetry and created compositions based on the poetry. The students read their poems at the concerts, and some of the stories that the parents told us about how it influenced them and what effect it had on them was just like the whole orchestra was crying when we were listening to these stories.
Oh, that's incredible. So let's take an opportunity to make a couple shameless plugs. I always want to make sure people can find you. So it's the orchestraonthehill.org
Correct.
to find you. So any social media handles that anybody should be following or liking or?
Facebook, look for the Orchestra on the Hill. I think we have an
We do have
Instagram.
Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
And our YouTube page is loaded with videos of performances. You can check out what we've done in the past.
There are hundreds of performances on there, and that really took off during COVID. We started doing a lot of things remotely and digitally, and that I think the orchestra really excelled.
COVID really transformed what we do.
I mean, while other groups were trying to figure out how to manage concerts, and we somehow we turned it around to something very positive, and we started. For example, I know we're probably running out of time, but
No, you're good.
I reached out to the musicians and I said, send me a melody How are you feeling right now in this moment in your isolation? Talk to me about that through music. And they sent me some samples of melodies, and then we composed music around that. And then Chris is a brilliant recording engineer, and we set up video sessions and had the musicians come in one at a time, two at a time, masked, to record these compositions that were created from those samples. We also did the same thing with dancers. Send me a dance that expresses how you're feeling right now. And one of the dancers sent us this beautiful piece called Caress, where, because when you're in isolation, you don't touch other people anymore during COVID. And it was all about her just holding, and it was about touch, and such a beautiful, and with no music in the background. So we wrote music around that, and then sent it to her, and then she recorded a new video with the music to her dance.
Wow.
Which is really
It was really cool. And it really kind of followed the progression, the curve of COVID. So when we were in total lockdown, we were each creating pieces on our own and very much about isolation. As things opened up a little bit, as Tom was saying, we started working one or two people at a time and shooting things in front of a green screen and overdubbing. So by the time that things started to open up a little bit, we had this body of work that we had created in isolation, and then in small groups. We put together a 90-minute program that we put on the web that got a huge attendance online. And then as things opened up a little bit, we did this very large-scale outdoor performance of the results of all this work. And by the time it was all done, we were able to go into auditoriums again and have a huge amount of new repertoire.
And we called this sequence Emergence. So as we are emerging from isolation, we're coming out, and the music was doing the same thing.
Yeah. I think it's great that you guys adapted to the online environment, and I think it gives everybody, not only locally an opportunity to get exposure to you at any time, but the reach beyond is just.
That's right.
It's infinite, actually. Like Andrew, if the listeners haven't heard this already, runs Streamography. There may be a way, we'll work on this. We'll follow up with you after this on maybe there's a way that we can stream the performance from the Crane Estate, so we can get more exposure to more people, as an example of just getting the communities, working together on these projects, because I think that would be phenomenal if it's a limited event. But if anything, it's something that then you can put online, so more people can experience it after the fact.
Yeah, that would be great. What I really love about this process and this orchestra right now is that we're not just musicians. We're artists collaborating with other artists, and we're discovering such similarities between the arts and how we develop ideas and create our art. And it's just, to me personally, it's just so inspiring and enlightening to see, dancers develop their ideas, and visual artists develop their, and we're all doing the same thing, but it's being translated to a different sense.
Right.
I can appreciate that. Right. And please send more of them over here to us to get an opportunity to speak with them and get them exposure as well. Because I think this is going to be a great platform for the arts to be able to reach an audience to hear more. And we're going to invite you guys back continuously. You're one of those guests that is not only here to tell their story, today, but every quarter, every year on what's coming up, what events are ahead of us. So, Chris and Tom, I appreciate you guys coming on. This was phenomenal, and we look forward to having you back.
That would be great.
And really
maybe next time we can bring some of our collaborators with us and
that would be great.
Talk about the process.
That would be phenomenal, and we'll get some of your music on our B rolls.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Try.